Let's start with question as usual, and then today we're going to get more into practice because we've been talking too much the past couple of times, but it was important because we need to know the theory, but no amount of theory is going to make you grow and make you integrate really this biology of consciousness in there. We're here to grow as people, not only just to know about it. We don't only want to know how to grow, we want to grow. That's a big difference. Okay, so we're going to do that today. So in preparation for that, of course, if there is any question, because to set up, your mind, it means, especially at the rational level, is to set up your belief system. And your belief system, as long as it's not anchored into earth, into your physical wisdom, then it's always going to be questionable because it's only going to be a possibility. It's always going to be virtual because always going to find more possibilities and things like that. So that's the domain of the belief system. A belief system is not designed to be set. A belief system is designed to improve. That's why we're not perfectly human. Or rather, that's why perfection is not a human attribute. Because if you were, then there's no evolution possible from there. What's really human is to be able to evolve as a person. And that's something we're going to start to explore today, especially connecting with our zone of influence from Earth, from the central part of self, and being, it's funny, like in English, to be self-conscious is kind of a bad thing. No, you want to be conscious of yourself. And to be self-conscious is not to be afraid of being criticized. Again, try to think about where mentally this is coming from. If you think about yourself, you're stepping a step out of yourself to be able to have the distance of consciousness. And then what the rational thinking is used to. It's been educated to put a should everywhere. So when you are conscious of yourself from that perspective of rational thinking, you're criticizing yourself. You cannot help it. And not only you criticize yourself without being able to not help it, but you never learn that there's another way to do that. So you can never feel in your inner wisdom really the value of yourself. Thinking about yourself is to be self-conscious and a very negative aspect of it. So today we're going to learn to be self-conscious, not from the perspective of wood, the wood perspective of rational thinking, right, that needs to take the distance, but from an inner place. And that from that inner place, to be self-conscious is to improve its own emotional and mental solidity. This is earth, to be able to improve one's presence. Does that work as a program for today? Okay, any questions, coming from there? Because now it's very important to answer even the most, you think, basic and what people think. So, of course, of thinking, stupid question. And to be, because of being self-conscious. I know it's very important to answer right now. So let me see, I'm gonna open my chat window here. Make sure that I'm aware if someone ask a question here. Here we go. Yeah, so use a chat or wave, if you do something, maybe, because I can only see like 4 or 5 people at a time, and you're more. So you have to, in order to appear on my screen, you have to unmute yourself and say something or move or do something, and then you appear. That works? Okay, no question? Let's start. Okay, so in order not to think, you have to, not to think at the rational level, we are going to need to bring consciousness, I mean, put attention or mental attention more into physical, and the physical intelligence. And for that, we're going to need to differentiate it from the two intelligence we were talking previously, past a couple of weeks. It's the one that connects to what's very personal. And so the personal part of oneself, called the soul, constituted of that rational thinking, which is, of course, the yang part, and the superficial part, the one that we learn to bring out all the time. And also the inner part, the yin part, the essential part of that soul, we call the emotional intelligence. So today we're gonna work and we're gonna juggle three intelligences. Not so easy, I'm gonna see. But the most important is to connect, always make that differentiation from the earth and that physical wisdom that we have inside. So let's start. So sit comfortably. Here we go. Sit comfortably and expand your breath. So be aware of your breath, simple. And so being aware of your breath, you start feeling yourself. So you're putting that bridge between your emotional intelligence and that physical intelligence we need to connect. So it's about being able to think less and feel more, because of course you still need to think. But be able to differentiate those intelligences. So think, let yourself body weight sink as you inhale. And pushing your body weight comfortably down as you exhale. And be aware of how you feel. Sitting, if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, adjust. So you're not obsessed by it all the time. And be aware, like expand your breath. Be aware of the physiology of your lungs. Your lungs on front are very small. And they are just right here like this. But in your back, they're much bigger. So be aware of expanding your lungs, the back of your lungs. And be aware of how your breath feels. And as you breathe, be aware again how comfortable you feel on the chair or whatever you're sitting on. And be aware of your immediate surroundings. Your desk, your computer in front of you, and your room. And be aware how your presence in this space. Be aware of you being present in that space. And how your presence affects that space. And how the space around you affects you. And yes, you can do little adjustments if you feel like you need it. Not only on yourself, but on the space, whatever is occupying the space around you, so you feel comfortable in it. So basically, you're aware of your presence. Be aware of being present. And the presence is on the space, also the time. See, you're occupying a time within this day that you told yourself you're going to do that. So that space, and then after, in a couple of hours, you're going to do something different. And before you came to that space of study and practice, you were doing something else. So as you're becoming aware of your presence in the space, also be aware of your presence within time, that time frame we're in. And then we're going to expand the space, the consciousness of the space around us, outside the room, in the house, what's going on in the house, and how your presence in the house affects the space, and how that space affects you. And keep expanding, going outside. And being aware of the space as far as you can be aware comfortably. And that place, the backyard, the front yard, the neighborhood, the streets. And then whatever you can perceive of the space, the weather. So be aware of the space and how that space affects you. So that's connecting with, again, that theme of zone of influence. And then within that space, the whole space around you that you can mentally visualize or see, if you're looking through the window, and perceive even for the landscape that's in your back, on your side, and the sphere of influence all around you. And be aware of the living beings within the space. If there's any animals in your house, any plants, and then outside the house, the plants, the animals, the bugs, the birds. If there is water, all those beings living in water. And now being aware that everything alive around you connects to the same network where life is coming from. So don't need to be so precise about the origin of that network. Eventually we're going to get there. But for now, be aware there's a big network coming out of the ground. And we're all fruit of the earth, growing at the same time. And for that season of a lifetime we're crossing right now. And today, and right now, all around us, that network of living being you're part of. So all those living beings around you, connected inwardly, hanging from the earth. We're all hanging from the in that atmosphere, that thin layer of air that's around the earth. We're all breathing the same air, same atmosphere. And now be aware of your presence within a network of life. Feeling especially the network coming from the ground. Don't worry about the coming from above. You expose, no problem. There's the light, there is the air. And now be aware of the extended zone of influence around you. You had breakfast this morning, or you had whatever, some meals, you had some food, where that food is coming from. Oh, all the different steps it took for that food to be able to get inside your body to become a part of you. We're not made of what we eat. It's what we eat that's turning into us. But that food and the wheat that grew to make that toast was not planted yesterday. And it was planted by someone. But they might be out of our consciousness if we don't think about them. But they do exist. All those people that contributed for you to have toast this morning. And there is, of course, a whole network we call economic network, and that allows you to have a shirt and to have whatever you're wearing was made by someone else. So by just wearing that, you contribute to their livelihood. You bought a shirt, and the shirt was made by someone and was brought to the store. The store selling it. So before that, the cotton was grown somewhere, recolted by someone, turned into fabric. All those different steps that really increases your consciousness about your zone of influence. And now there is called the yin and yang parts of the zone of influence. The zone of influence, you feel more passive. You feel like you need to control who and when and how, what happens, to make that shirt. So that's out of your control somehow. But as soon as you choose to buy that shirts, not the church. As soon as you choose to buy the shirt and you bought it and you wear it, that becomes active. That's yang. That's your choice. You could have chosen something else. Maybe a t-shirt, another color, another product. So be aware from what keeps you being right here, right now, in terms of food, in terms of clothing, in terms of infrastructure around you. You live there, you bought a place or you're renting a place. Some of it is out of your control, so it's passive. Some of it is more active. It's your choice. And that choice increases that zone of influence in terms of called the yang aspect, the voluntary. Your voluntary impact on your surrounding. You made the change just by choosing to live in that one place, to wear a certain kind of clothing, and to feed yourself in a certain way. That's more active, meaning that comes out of your own power. And the more power of choice you have, the more power to you, of course. And the more power to you, the more responsibility. Meaning that the fact that you choose something over something else gives you certain responsibility, especially over the people that involved into the production, line of production. It's a livelihood right there, quite important. So everything that we choose to do for a good reason, that we choose yourself, make us more responsible person. So that's called a level of maturity. Level of maturity means that you have more control over your life instead of being controlled by it. So increasing the number one, the consciousness of it, and then the capacity to choose. So going back to your body, going back to the feelings, how it feels to wear this kind of shirt, being aware of where did he get products, in what conditions, how do you feel to eat that kind of food, being more aware again about the line of production and what's involved and how he feels about it. So increasing consciousness about the influence at the soul level. Now again, the soul, that's the mental axis, that's personal. And that constitutes yourself. So yes, the wood and metal is anchored in earth and grows from earth, but eventually it influences yourself. You influence your earth, especially your knowledge of things. Knowing about things at the rational level. This is done this way and that way, and it makes me feel a certain way. And that constitutes who you are, how you feel. And it's not about being make easy or enjoyable or whatever. It's just connected with the way things are, without judgment. So be able to use your wood intelligence, rational thinking, without the shoulds behind. That's very difficult for us well-educated Westerners. So knowing that, there's been a production, a whole line of production to wear that kind of shirt. A whole line of production to have your breakfast. At the level of responsibility you can take over it. And you're going to see that the level of not being responsible is huge. So don't take it personally. It is not. But be aware that maybe you could have made a better choice. And maybe next time you're going to eat something better or wear something, whatever, nicer or whatever, more comfortable or with an origin that fits more your system of called ethics. So ethics as opposed to the laws. Ethics is coming from emotional intelligence. It comes from feelings, what feels right. And what feels right coming from your inner wisdom of your earth. That's not questionable. This is what it is. As opposed to what is right. This is my right to wear the shirt. This is my right to buy croissants like everyone else, right? And that's, of course, rational thinking there. That's going to find excuses for everything. Going to look for theories, for stories, for whatever to justify. So that's the law. So you creating laws, or some laws are being created for you that you can follow, and don't worry about the ethics of it. And again, no shoulds. Now try to differentiate within yourself the way you think and the way you feel. And on the belief system, you've been told and taught that it's okay because that's just the law. That's there's no choice there. Or is there? But being able to make that difference in your mind within your belief system. So being able to get your essence of your mind, and the thinking mind, your personal mind, from an emotional perspective, what feels right. And what feels right is following a good sense of ethics. And that's about maturity. Maturity means you have the energy, so the power that gives you the responsibility over your choices. And that responsibility gives you even more power, even more maturity, more choice, more precise choice. And be able to control what you think about it. Doesn't matter what the law says, that's the way I feel about it. And connecting with that. And it's okay anyway, because there's a big level of not being responsible for that. But can I improve the situation? So be aware of you being in the center, needing to make a choice. Would I buy a shirt like that again? Or maybe not in the same place? Or not maybe from a different origin? And connecting from a place of feelings in order for me to feel more better about myself. Be able to feed myself with something that makes me feel good about it. Where do you feel it in your body? That needs to satisfy yourself, not only at the physical level, but also at a deep mental level. About feeling, about having a sense of, developing a sense of pride about oneself. This morning, I had a good breakfast. I'm proud of it because I had eggs from my neighbor. And they're so much better with beans that I grew myself. Being able to get a sense of whatever is part of your zone of influence, how that can contribute to make yourself feel better, more responsible, and contribute to improve your life, make it more enjoyable for yourself and everything that occupies that zone of influence of yours. Sharing life, not only at the passive level, but more active in order to share the enjoyment of life. So we're stepping back to the spiritual axis here that we are exploring. I'm going to go back to it eventually. But again, from the Earth central perspective, and this is the round table, everything is in there. So the personal level, from your belief system to your sense of ethics and sense of self-pride, to how you share it at the spiritual axis. Sharing the light, sharing the love, sharing the enjoyment of life that you bring into your future. And that's your fire. Coming from a pattern of habits that's behind you, that's impossible to resist, of course, water. And by habits, we behave a certain way. So now, if you just rest, breathe, and just pay attention, you have a differentiation of the 4 directions of your mind with a central intelligence right at the center. Don't think so much. Just feeling through your breath, you're in touch with the way you feel and the sense of pride, self-pride of being part of that zone of influence that you know because you have that wood intelligence. I give that reflection back and be able to build the belief system and improve it and change it all the time. So you have the belief system, improving the belief system and understanding, and giving different choices of perspective, of possibilities. That's from wood intelligence. But it's making sure that you feel right about it. That's the right way to think, because that makes me feel proud of myself, because I feel good. And that's metal, your metal intelligence. And from the central place of intelligence, be able to feel the influence of those 2 and other intelligences within your zone of influence. It allows you to take certain decisions. The decisions coming from a central intelligence. From now on, knowing better, I'll do better. The place of doing, that's earth. Cultivating earth in order to improve this zone of influence around us. Knowing that a lot of that coming from our back pattern of habit is water. Don't resist, don't swim against the current, but let the current bring you where you want, toward the light, toward the warmth, toward the better future. An example of a life that you put out there that's going to help the next generation to improve their life on your model. Being aware that your presence in the zone of influence serves as a model for other people that don't have your maturity. So make sure that your presence can be imitated, have a good outcome, a good impact. So again, be aware of the zone of influence as far as you can perceive it. On your back, from coming from that pattern of habits that cannot be resisted, it can be modified according to the way you think, according to the way you feel, improving your responsibility, improving the way you behave for yourself in order to feel good, to feel better about yourself, and how that influences the zone of influence around you, how that influences others, everything alive, even the plants. We have intimate relationship with plants that most of people are not aware of, especially with what we call weeds that grows in your backyard. And we attract life the same way that we are attracted by life. So be aware of that consolidation of that zone of influence through your consciousness that's been expanded. And there's no turning back. Once you know better, then you do better. By acquiring more maturity, more power, more mental power, you're assuming more responsibilities with more control. So be able to have the kind of control you choose to have over your life instead of your life controlling you all the time. And rest. I think be long enough already. It was a pretty long meditation. Just rest and feel around you. When you rest and you stop, when you disconnect the rational thinking for just a short instant, that allows your whole mind to reset itself. Okay. So let's go for questions. I think, Jack, you should unmute yourself just in case there is a, because now you're monitoring a little bit, just in case you.
If anyone has a question.
One with questions, yeah.
If anyone does have a question, simply unmute yourself. It's easy to speak, especially after that.
Yes. All right. The fact that there's no question is good because it means people stop thinking for a while and start to feel more. So that's a very good, that's very positive.
I have a question that's not very clear in my mind. Thank you for the meditation. That I think that's a great tool against jet lag.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. The question has to do with oftentimes when you talk about the soul axis, and I might not rephrase you right. You talk about the individual level and the spiritual would be more like the collective.
Yes.
And there is something that, because my ancestors are not your ancestors. So
that's right.
So the water is already specific to the individual, right?
Yes, some of it.
Clarify that a little bit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very important to improve our relationship with water. For that, you need to experience water. If you, especially in the Mediterranean behind me there, I was lucky to grow up in that kind of water. And that water is very particular. You don't find a water like that all around the world so easily. It's not the ocean. It's a sea. It's a more enclosed sea. And that gives it a particular character, which is higher salt level. And with the higher salt level, you float much more easily. So if you just let yourself float, that water is going to even if you try to dive, you're going to be brought back to the surface pretty quick. And you can just lie down on your back and float. It's quite amazing. So, all that to answer your question, what's immediately under your skin, the water that touches your skin, that's your pattern of habit. And the pattern of habit coming from given by the ancestors, and that's holding the sea from under the bottom of the sea, the earth, that gives you all that pattern of habit that goes from the surface of the water all the way to the bottom of the sea. On the surface, that's your immediate ancestry. Your parents, your grandparents, your bloodline, basically. But as you go deeper in the water, you're going to get in touch with origins that you share with more and more people. your civilization, your culture. Number one is your geographical situation here, the people right around you, your not only the ethnic group, because you can share the ground with different ethnic group, but the fact that you grew up in one space shapes you and gives you a behavior already there that's different from all people from other places. You are under different kind of weather, you eat different kind of foods, you have different ways of being. So that's the bloodline. And the deeper you go inside that water, the more you're going to share with more people. So again, the spiritual access from the past toward the future, that's what we share. Your soul, that's floating on the surface of water with your body. It's yourself. With your body, your earth part of yourself floating on top. That's like an island, but a floating island with a lot of water under. And with your belief system, that's your wood. Wood floats. And the metal, let's give you the shape that reflects your essence, your feelings, your capacity to connect, to make bridges of consciousness all around you and within yourself, of course, and to be able to communicate efficiently within those 5 intelligences. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I always take advantage of every question to make a review, the maximum range possible, and eventually, things sink in. Okay, any other question? So questions about the practice we just had, or sharing whatever it is that allowed you, that you might feel a shift within your personality. Again, the personality anchored in yourself, in your body, and being alive, is coming from, we call the soul. That access coming from your belief system, that's a change from the surface, either because you change from your feelings inside, or the reverse. Your capacity to have a clearer vision of a different perspective on your life allows your inner part of your soul, the feelings you have, to change, to have a shift in there. So it goes back and forth. It's not only metal cuts wood that we know about in Chinese medicine and Taoist philosophy. That's a little too dry. There's the other part. There is a big influence of wood over metal. It's on the same axis, on the same body there. Okay, any questions about that? Or maybe it gets a little too heady, a little too complicated. So if you want to get something that brings you back to where you need to be in order to be more solidly anchored into the meditation, of course, that's good. Looking at the chats here, it looks like David left. Okay, no questions. Okay, then we continue. All right. So let's get a little more precise. Any questions about the zone of influence and the difference between the passive aspect of it and the more active? And of course, there is a thin line in between. So being aware, again, that there is a big part of our life, of course, with no or very little capacity for changing. The way things have been set up for a long time, the pattern of habits, traditions, and you know, everything that makes life the way it is, we feel like, wow, it's just the way it is. There's not much I can do about it. Or can you? So there's no way you can do anything if you're not aware of how much influence you have on your surroundings. And that starts with the influence you have with your immediate surroundings, in your room where you are. How comfortable that room is. And there's a big level of being not responsible, feeling like, well, you know, I cannot do much about the size of this room, you know, but maybe the way I put things together in it can be improved in order to feel more comfortable. And as soon as you do that, you give yourself more responsibility over your life. That's very important. It's not about you know, the feng shui things, about making things look pretty. No, it's really about, you know, your immediate surroundings, an extension of yourself, of your own body. So being able to feel the way actually is a good reflection, a good perspective to be able to look how your immediate surrounding is. Most likely is going to reflect in a big way how you are within yourself, how you feel about yourself. So it's about improving your wood intelligence by adopting a greater range of perspective. And that gives you more choices in terms of choosing what perspective to take. A perspective of not responsibility that actually makes you turn into a victim, right? You're not responsible, and whatever happens to you, you know, it's nothing you can do. That means that you're being controlled by life. And that's okay. I mean, there's so much, you know, that we're not responsible for. But it's not okay. It's not to be aware of it, especially being an adult. You know, being a kid, of course, you know, that's the reason why you're a kid. Yeah, you need not to be responsible as long as you're a kid. And so you have to have adults around you that are responsible for you. And so you can grow with a maximum range of experience and choices. And so that's what has to be given to kids. Kids has to be given the widest range of possibilities so they can develop their own sense of responsibility. That's very important. But how can kids develop the sense of responsibility around adults that don't have a sense of it? So that's how big our influence on our surrounding is, a zone of influence. So as adults, we have a certain responsibility, especially the older you get. And the older we get, the more experience we have, the more we learned about life. So that's why it's so important to share, to connect with people. So that's mental aspects. We have to develop that mental aspect of intellectual social intelligence, the capacity to transmission of information that's faster than thinking. It's immediate, it's mental, it conducts the information through your behavior, through your present, through who you are, how you express yourself, how you manifest yourself in resonance to your surroundings. And that's a kind of information that we cannot talk about because there's no words for it. It's too fast, it's immediate. So that's emotional intelligence. That's meta. We reflect like meta. The older we get, the more polished he gets just by being around. Thing gets polished like that, like the stones on the beach. They become smooth, smooth like that. As you get older, it gets shiny. It reflects the light, right? So your presence becomes more shiny as you get old. That's why in what's human, as you get older, it becomes more glamorous, actually. People are afraid, civilization to get old because they're not young any longer. No. As you get older, if you do the right thing, you improving your maturity, you're improving your capacity to be more human. And that needs to be shared. And that's what happens in every other civilization on Earth, in the past and the present, where old age is being valued. Because, think about it. Even, in civilization, the value of grandparents over grandchildren. And no, don't forget about children. Your immediate children are designed to fight you all the time. Okay, so your kids are going to want to be different than you are, and that's good. Don't try to make your kids do exactly what you are doing. It's not natural. And they need to have a wider range. You need to escape. They need to have their own life, but they're going to have kids. And those kids need their grandparents because they're going to react to their own parents, of course. They're not going to want to be like them. They're going to look up to their grandparents, and that's natural. That's what's human. So even that the grandparent doesn't have, of course, the influence of the parents, and that it can be replaced, of course, not same responsibilities, but the zone of influence over the next generations is enormous. Because the parents, and that's where the big conflict is always, it's about choices, it's about the wood intelligence, it's about knowledge, it's about knowing, it's about belief system. And that's, of course, since always going to have more choices, that's where conflicts come from. That's where all the shoulds are. And that's why there is conflicts between generations, immediate generations. But if you skip a generation, you're going to find in the same resonance because you're on the bloodline anyhow. But it's not going to be a connection at the rational level. It's not about learning something to do or like something immediate in terms of about the belief system itself. It's about improving life. It's about quality of life. Quality of life comes from grandparents. The grandparents is the one who's going to teach the grandson to go fishing and to or music, but just by playing, or it's going to bring interest to the other generation, to the grandchildren generation. So that's why, as a personality, as we mature, our zone of influence is becoming more important for the future. Parents is for the present, right here, right now. They have to feed the kids. They have to make them, they go to school. They need to basically fit the society right here, right now. Grandparents' zone of influence is wider and deeper at the same time. Coming from a deeper water, different system of habits, so more perspective on origins, and also quality of life. and about feelings. Yes, you choose to do things for that because you know it's important, but do you like it? Is it good for you? Is it a good influence? Does that matches the quality of life you want to have for yourself and maybe for your own kids later on? That's the role of the grandparents. That the parents are not able to give because again, you're going to be confronted with a natural war in between generations. Your kids, you're going to basically have the kids that's going to question you all the time. And that's their job. Because they want to be different and they need to be different. Different personality. Yes, they are extension of you, but they're not you. There are all the possibilities. So you cannot give them the support they need in terms of being true to themselves. Because you have to guide them within the frame of what we call the belief system of safety. You, as a parent, you're the one who's going to say, no, don't do that. Only the grandparents might be able to say, okay, don't do that, but hey, think about it. Maybe when you grow up, you're going to do a little better. When you do better, it might be go in that direction, even though your parents don't really like it. Giving permission to the kid to be different and be supported there. That's something parents cannot do. And without that support, without that emotional unconditional support coming from grandparents, the earth is going to become very weak. So what happens? You cannot feel so good about yourself, so think more. Look for advantages. You might follow, either you're going to follow the parents or react so completely, you're going to separate, having conflict. And that's what the big drama, civilization, the breaking down of the family structure. A lot of people don't know their grandparents. Many grandparents are completely disconnected to their grandchildren. And that's a very big mental problem. Because that brings a weakness, the lack of personal solidity, the lack of support. So when we have that lack the way we do at the general state in the civilization, we need to cultivate it. And that's why those meditations I'm trying to provide in terms of, it's not only meditation, trying to do nothing. No, it's really active meditation. We need to help develop and improve this capacity for cognition and interaction between the mind. So instead of having internal conflict all the time, always under the authority of the shoulds, we learn as a educational system, we develop the capacity of internal solidity, meaning that as soon as we are imposed the shoulds in terms of a belief system, then that comes automatically with emotional fragility, a poor sense of one's opinion of oneself, feeling weak, feeling we're not responsible. So, by getting rid of responsibility, we get rid of power. And getting rid of that kind of power reduce the mental capacity. And from there, we lose our humanity, basically. We're not completely human. So very important to be able to develop, to be able to cultivate and that kind of those mental capacities that allowed us to become more human for ourselves and taking charge for our life, have more responsibility, and be able to, once we have that power, it's wood. Wood is very generous. That just comes out of us. And people are just around us and pick it up. So that's how we spread healing. And that's how, healing is contagious. But in order to be contagious, you have to start a contagion within yourself. So how the practice we just did, maybe be able to do another one before the end of this session. Let me see, I have to check, keep an eye on the time. Wow, an hour is gone already. Every time we go through this kind of practice, we open basically our bodies, the infrastructure of our minds, called the brain. Once again, the brain is not the mind, but we need the brain in order for our mind to expand. And it's the basic infrastructure. So when we do the meditation, we build more synapses, and it's immediate. And the nervous system reaches out for this kind of knowledge, and that's called dendrites at the physical level. Those are the little arms of nerves going from neurons that connects to other neurons to make more connections in there. So meditation makes your brain grow, not trying to remember things. Trying to remember things makes only the cerebral cortex basically burn out. Trying to remember things that you don't need to remember is there, right? So when you do meditation instead of trying to learn by heart what's in the book, you're actually growing your infrastructure, your capacity to let that inner wisdom to come out on its own. Basically like growing flowers or growing vegetables in your yard. You put a seed in there, you water it, and let nature run its course. And you put the seed, it's in the dirt, and there's water, and there's sun out there. There's no way it's not going to grow. So every time we have a practice like that, every time we do meditation, you expand your consciousness, you grow at the mental level. That's reflected in your brain by being more active, making more connections. Your brain doesn't need to grow. It's the size is tremendous already. We have one of the beings on Earth, a living being with a bigger brain. And with a big brain, small legs. So that means we're not designed to run. We're designed to think. Okay. If you think right, you don't need to run. You get into a car. It works better for humans. So using our human capacities, mental capacities, in order to become more human and less like what we call animal. But animals are perfect. They are the way they are. It's not normal for human to be a beast. Doesn't matter how much you like those beasts. Humans are humans. They're not dogs, they're not lions. Even though, lions and dogs, they have their qualities and they are perfect. And they improve in their own. They have a mind, they have consciousness. But human, we have to remain human and more human, especially more humane humans. That can only be done by expanding our consciousness about our condition and the way this cognition, this way of knowing things, this awareness, consciousness, can help us have more influence, better influence on our existence. Okay? Any questions? The one waving. So if you have a question, don't forget to unmute yourself. Here's Mark. Just unmute himself. Okay. No question.
This was
Yeah.
a little general. I mean, it was interesting hearing you speak about parents and grandparents, etc.
Yes.
Wise. Being once again now in the unique position of step parent.
Aha.
14 and 19-year-old girls. I was before in a 14-year relationship with 4 kids.
Yeah.
That ended about 9 years ago. That I would not say it was very successful. Step parent, and this is like it's very peculiar. I can't quite figure out, my role. There's natural resistance from the beginning. From kids, and a kind of ongoing, even sometimes conflict over approaches to them with my partner. And anyway, I know, in terms of the elements, partly that we're speaking of, and to hear your perspective on step parenting.
So basically, you're occupying a space. And you have a zone of influence. So that zone of influence makes you a parent. Doesn't matter if the bloodline is not there. You're the support system. And of course, this gets complicated, civilization, because there's all kind of conflict about it. But be aware of one thing. Being a father or stepfather or a model, whatever, being in the role of a parent, you put yourself irremediably into a conflict position with your kids.
Yeah.
Because you're the parents. You're going to have the kids that's going to question you no matter what. Okay? So don't make it a problem to solve. That's a loss of energy. Pure loss of energy is wasted. Right? So instead, accept it. I am a parent or step parent, no matter what. Therefore, I'll be conflicting with my kids. But am I going to let it be not responsible about it? Being like, not take responsibility for it? Or can I take more charge over it and use that aspect, conflictual aspect, for the most beneficial outcome? So number one is to take out that should. You don't have to be someone different than you are, okay? Actually, you're occupying a position that's important in the house. And your presence is there. So you have to use the authenticity of that presence rather than the should.
Yep.
And that's a big problem we have, again, in our civilization, in our educational system, based on shoulds. Because the should is going to make you weak, because you're never going to be the way you should.
That's right.
By definition. You start as a loser already. So stop that. In martial art, it's about getting on inside the ring with the arm like this. You're attracting blows. Yeah, don't do that. No, instead, come from a place of solidity. Okay? So maybe you don't like me, or you don't like what I do, or you don't like my presence, but I'm here. Okay? Maybe I don't like you so much either. And maybe there's something that I don't like in what you do. But that's okay. That's the way things are. So let's work from there. And it's not about trying to make it better. It's about being functional That's different. So being functional means it doesn't matter how much I got to criticize you, you can count on me for support.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's the difference again between the belief system that's always going to be conflictual and the essence of the soul, the ethical part of yourself, about the emotional intelligence that makes you accept the role you have and try to make it perform the best way you can. My role as a father is to criticize. You're my kid, I'm going to criticize you no matter what. And you are going to fight me and contest. That's your role. It's okay. So be able to accept that is huge already. But that's the foundation for support. So a kid, even though it's going to disagree, is never going to be feel right about what you say and everything. If he feels that he has the right of his own opinion, if he feels that he is respected for who he is, you win, both of you. That's the most important part. That's coming from the earth, the solidity of the earth, the solidity of the presence that gives, that extends the bridge. And that bridge is not going to be destroyed. Doesn't matter how much we disagree about things, at the emotional level, we're fulfilling a space that's very physical that needs to be respected. And by being able to do that, form yourself from that solidity of earth, it's going to bring a resonance in the space that's going to make you grow into the kid. Because the kid, again, needs to grow. That's the role of a kid. And to grow, he is going to go through crisis the way you did yourself. We still do. But being more adult, we deal with more maturity. And that's how they're going to learn. They're going to learn not through what you say, because this is always going to be questioned, but how you do it, how you say it, and how you occupy that emotional space.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work?
Yeah. Great.
Cool.
Thanks.
Very good. Okay. How do we with time? Ooh, man, it's going.
Taylor,
Go ahead.
are you waving your hand, Taylor? No? Okay. I just thought.
Okay. Cool. Very good. All right. I think it's a good. We're gonna go more practice through the through those sessions as we put behind all of the need to understand. So that's why it's still important to answer the questions, because the more questions we answer, the deeper we can go into practice and be able to grow, as a person. Does that work? So, no questions?
I actually have something. I'll try to keep it brief.
Go ahead.
I'm graced with a relationship with a woman, and her niece comes over to see us.
Yeah.
She's a 6-year-old.
Oh, nice.
She's here now, in fact, and I've never experienced having no children of my own, but I, like Mark, was a step parent.
Yeah.
And you spoke of the grandparent role. I'm actually experieing that.
Nice.
It's rather luxurious.
Yes.
But the beauty is that you've brought a little clarity to me of the sphere of influence, a little line of definition,
Yes.
as far as discipline. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Where discipline, where it's not my role to be the disciplining father type, but actually to be able to be a more removed and broader, without responsibility of correction, yet extending the support to the inner human that they get to have. She gets to have her own opinion, So, thank you. It's cool.
It's very important, and this is the reason why she comes visit. She knows that she needs the support beyond the role of the parents. The grandparents, so important there. And eventually, see, that's where the nature is so perfect about it. When the grandparents disappear, when they don't need to have both. And when the role model of the grandparent disappears, because often they don't have the grandparents in their life, but the kid's going to look for one. And they're going to find one, fortunately. And sometimes it's in theory, it's in books, it's in, it's a role model somewhere. But the role model of the grandparent, the supportive, emotional support of the kid eventually disappears. And that comes to an age of the kids that's reaching maturity. Meaning that from that level, that emotional support needs to become self-support. Has to be developed from what they know better now, for the example they embodied from the experience they had with the grandparents. So when the grandparent disappears, big drama emotionally. The grandkids usually miss their grandparents more than the kids themselves. Okay, sometimes they feel relieved when the parents disappears. Let's say it's normal, it's natural. So missed more by grandkids. That's because of that resonance in there. But that's important because that grandparents occupy still the space, even dead. It's in the bloodline. It's there. We carry our ancestors in ourselves. And so that support, the presence of that grandparents, when it's made as a support, remains in the grandchildren as a self-support, has been integrated. So that's very important. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just giving you a little time movement, because the first meditation ran approximately 40 minutes. It's about that much to go, so I don't, I just...
Yeah. But don't worry, we're not going to do something so intense because you're going to get exhausted. I know you guys. I've been there, done that myself. So basically what we're going to do as the next one is a step for what we're going to do next time, which is more connected with healing the spiritual axis, which is, very important. But before we get there, we need to consolidate the sense of self, which is what we're doing right now. By connecting with the differentiation between the belief system and our sense of ethics, the sense of feeling good about ourselves, sense of pride, basically, that as a human being, as being alive, occupying the space in our zone of influence, being that where we are, our existence is being positive, is being make life better around you. So that's the mental aspect. Only once you have the capacity of power, then you can expect to have an influence over your spirit. And then it's going to be very strong. But if you feel that you don't have a sense of responsibility over yourself and being a victim of life, there's no way you can connect with that spiritual line with any kind of influence. Any questions about that? Yeah, so basically it's about trying to get to our educational system the missing link that allows us to be more active in terms of participating to our lives in a way that's beneficial, instead of feeling powerless about what's going on in the world. How about that? Yes. Someone just unmuted, but I cannot see.
That was actually me.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So should we get into meditation and then we can have more time? Let's make like maybe 10 minutes meditation, not so big. I'm gonna try. I cannot predict right away. So make yourself comfortable. And we're going to connect more with the spiritual axis. But first, let's go back to the inner solidity. So inner solidity, when you first to perceive it. So sinking as you inhale, let your body sink. Push your body weights to the ground as you exhale. So feeling your connection with the ground. So gravity. And let's make it more enjoyable. Feeling your bottom, wherever you contact with the earth. If you're standing, it's your feet. If you're sitting, it's your butt. Wherever you have contact, be aware of the feelings you have with that contact. And just smile there. So don't ask me how you do that, just do it. Smile in your butt. Smile in your feet. And as you do that, see, there's something very physical. There's a law, physical law there. Wherever you smile, you bring a smile back. Notice in the street, you smile in the street, people smile back to you. If someone smiles to you, you cannot help it, you smile back. It's like a sneeze. It's communicative. Or yawning. You start to yawn and everyone starts to yawn around. Same, you smile, it's physical. So smiling in your butt, you're going to feel the chair smiling back to you. Feel softer, more comfortable. No need of understanding and trying to think about a different pillow or whatever. It doesn't matter, even if it's just hard. Just smile there. And spreading the smile to your whole spine, smiling in your spine. Feeling lighter. Smile in your ribs. Breathe in the back of your lungs, smile there. Smiling in your stomach. Smiling down your legs, to your arms, smiling in your head, in your jaws. You relax your face and let your face smile on its own. Then be aware of the smiling energy expanding around you, like an aura. If you have a hard time, and don't think so much about it, try to feel it and breathe. And be aware of the smells in the room, wherever you are, and how the smell is influencing you. And be aware of your smile in your body being a smell, because it is a vibration. It can be perceived by a lot of beings through your smell, the way you smell. When you smile, your smell is very different than when you crunch. So expand the smell around you like you're expanding your smell. And you can have an immediate response through the living world around you. The plants, the animals, any living being, being aware of how you smell delineates your presence and your zone of influence around you. Smelling to get the smell back. So that's a strategy. So it's very rational thinking oriented, but it's done by your body. And it's how wood controls earth. So make your earth smile. And for that, of course, you need to develop the capacity to feel good about yourself. So connecting with the positive aspects of your influence around you. That doesn't matter what you do and how you do it. There is some positive aspects that you might not even be aware of. By feeling good, you send a tone around you, like a music instrument. You send a smell like a flower in bloom. That has a very strong influence on your surroundings. So just be aware of how your presence affects your surroundings. So it's not about forcing a smile on your face, because that forcing also is going to spread around you. It doesn't smell so good. So relaxing into it. Feeling good about something you did felt good to you. Like you smiled to someone in the street you didn't know, or whatever, and that smile, you felt you had a good influence. Or just saying hi to someone, acknowledging people around you. Sharing presence. Acknowledging the presence of things around you and the way they are without shoulds behind. That's the things they are, and it's okay because it's the way things are. So not only it's okay, it's perfect. It fits perfectly the way things are right now. And the only thing that can change is you. Because you're the only one that you can control. And you can extend that zone of control by your presence. So acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is a building of bridge. It's that connection, it's a metal connection. That's acknowledging the surface contact of presences around you. And that's everything, the objects, and including, the living beings, including the objects. And the plants, all the animals, everything alive, and of course people. So knowing that your presence influences the existence of everything alive around you. And accepting this existence for what it is the blessing of existence. And that's actually, there's a word for it that we don't have in English. It's the only language it exists that I know very precise about it, is aloha in Hawaiian. The acknowledgement of being in the presence of each other is not only hi. And it's not about asking all the people are just being polite. It's acknowledging that we live together. There is a togetherness that has a surface contact that needs to be respected. There's a bridge. So there is energy going in both directions. So be aware of that energy and the influence of that energy. We have a presence that has a surface contact that establishes the communication of the energy from us and toward us at the same time. And be able to connect with that surface contact in that bridge, putting more energy. And be aware that as you put more energy on the quality of the surface contact and the way it is, you see the shoulds disappear. Replacing the should by the way things are. That's the way it is. And yes, it can improve, but it's okay. Let it improve at its own pace, according to the way I feel, according to the way I receive information and the way I expand that information in the present. We think about it later, which is always going to happen because any kind of thinking is going to be a delayed reaction anyhow. So being able to put our mental attention on the present. No taking a step back from it, for thinking. You can, of course, you do that immediately when you say it, and that's good. And differentiate it from being. I am here, I am a presence, and I receive direct information from the presence of everything around me, not only live, but also objects. Because objects have a life of their own called symbolic. And then we're going to get into dream time, but that's another one later on. Symbolic presences around us through everything that's around us, all the objects, what the objects mean to us, from their shape, their color, their material, what they are. And our zone of influence form our presence in contact with them and where they're coming from. So network consciousness, network of consciousness of contact and being increased. Breathing and just let yourself be, feeling that presence being expanded around you, and that surface contact, the quality of the surface contact that goes to everything alive, but also all the objects. And be aware of how your inner vibrations, your frequency, has a direct influence on your surrounding. So the way you feel about yourself is going to be reflected immediately on your surroundings. So cultivating the capacity to improve how you feel about yourself by doing the right thing. That's going to make you feel that way. And then it's catch-22. And that's when we get to fire next week. Spreading the fire. Spreading healing for the future. And rest. So I couldn't help it. It was 20 minutes. It's okay. Questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead,
What do you do with people who are negatively affected by your well-being? What's the best way to behave? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know, you're pushing them down because you're doing good.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing. You do nothing. You just be. Be the best you can be and let them deal with it. Don't deal from them the way they should be. No, no should. And in some cases, well, it's good to make a distance, you know. And let them basically, let them take the time. And it's hard, and sometimes it goes like that with your own kids. And especially with your own kids, you have to let them. It's okay. If you do the right thing and you feel good about it, it's going to catch. It's going to spread. You cannot get a negative outcome from being positive. It's law of physics. So basically, be yourself. Don't try to match the expectations of others. That's how disasters start. That's very important. And the role model, my role model for it, you know who that is? Popeye. I am who I am. I am what I am, he says. Yeah. We're not perfect. It's okay. That's perfect. But nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong there. The only wrong thing, again, is not to be aware. Because if you're aware, you're not responsible and you're a victim. That makes you a victim. Being aware, even if you cannot do anything about it, you have that much more power over it. It gives you more choices eventually, more possibilities. And at least it takes you out of that destructive position of internal conflict. That's pathology. There's no shoulds. Being able to take shoulds out of your life would get rid of a lot of pathologies. It's not about accepting, because there are some things in life that are not acceptable. But knowing your level of responsibility and that, and be able to do some kind of change if it's possible. If it's not possible, it's okay. At least you know you're not responsible, and you try not to be responsible. Again, no shoulds. So yes, and if you study a little bit of the I Ching, that's why I like Taoism, because universal laws in there. There are universal laws about it that says it's impossible to be liked by everyone. It's just like that. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter of whatever who you are and how good you are. There's always going to be someone that's going to hate you, no matter what, no matter what you do. And that's okay. It's just the way it is. But the same token, same thing on the other extreme. Doesn't matter how bad you are. You could be a very like hateful person. It could be like so bad. I mean, very destructive and everything. It's still going to be someone who's going to love you no matter what. It's just the way it is. Cannot be helped. Nature. There's no should there. Nature is perfect. The only thing is that the outcome, according to our perspective, is not perfect. And we try to solve problem when there's no problem. It's just the way it is. Pure loss of energy. With no possible good outcome out of that. Because we're trying to change something is natural, it's failure from the beginning. So be able to, it's again not to accept the way things are, because things can change all the time. I mean, you have responsibility to make things change. It's not about accepting, it's about to be able to perceive the way things are. Because that's reality. The way the thing should be, that's illusion. That's fantasy. And that should is going to be different from one person to the next, even from the same person at different times. And that's insanity, basically. So take should out of your life and be able to see the way things are and how, from your inner felt sense, how can you make you feel better about yourself by your influencing that existence around you, by improving the zone of influence, by putting a more active, positive aspect into it. Not by solving problems, because again, it's no problem, it's not rational. It's the way things are. Being able to develop a positive aspect of oneself. And that can only be done working from the inside out, not the reverse. It's not who you are it's going to make you good. It's how you feel about yourself and how that feeling can spread and communicate it to others. That's the way things are. I didn't invent it. Yeah. That works. Any questions about that? Being able to, again, we have very poor vocabulary, concerning this subject. We call acceptance. It's not acceptance, because acceptance is too passive. Makes you a victim. It's about acknowledging the way things are. Yes, okay. And, gives you perspective. This is the way things are. Now, what can I do to make it more positive? To create a smile somewhere in there. To change the smell, make it more agreeable. That works. I know it's not easy. It goes against the grain of a good education we all received about trying to create a should where there is none. That's a mental illusion. Okay, you have something on the chat box.
I might as well say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's dinner time where I am.
Yes.
So sorry, gotta go.
Zone of influence, that's
so
right. Hey, you have to respect. Yes. Bye, Lulu.
Take care. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. Oh, we still have 10 minutes. So can only answer question, maybe prepare for next week, which is connecting with the, the deep healing aspect we have to go through, which is spiritual. Taylor, you say something? You appeared all of a sudden there. No, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think you've put some light on some feelings and emotions that I've had. So I want to thank you for like explaining some things that I had never really been able to think about or feel before.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for that, because this is a completely different way of being.
Yes.
Like we talk about influence and that kind of things and making things happen, but this is like a completely different way of, I guess, organizing it in the sense of connecting it back to the reality of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good. Any questions about it? Or clarify? This is good. Just giving feedback is validation. And so, yeah, it's as good as a question, actually. Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. With that?
Yes, hi, how are you? I wanted to type this in, but it wasn't coming out right. But I really appreciate this conversation about the shoulds, getting rid of the shoulds.
Yes.
Acutely aware, kind of like a vine or a web of all the shoulds I was told since I can remember.
Yeah.
How I've grown around that.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown my tissue and my habits and everything around that. And so when you take that out, I'm really interested in that process. I would like to expand more a little bit on a more physical and more complete using the 5 intelligences of emptying that dead wood.
Yes. Yeah, well, just come back, on Friday mornings.
Every single one.
Yes, that means you're a well-educated person. And like everyone well-educated, well, the way we all are right here, right now, it's need that kind of practice.
Yes.
So, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yes. Emptying the shoulds.
Yeah.
Do you do more with that? Do you have a deeper, like
more
inclusive thing with that could be a whole chapter. Just
see, again, I'm a lucky person. I start to practice that. When was that? In the 80s, with the Taoist meditations. So that's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm doing, giving those classes about meditation, but also being aware that it cannot be practiced the way it's been done traditionally in Taoist temples 3,000-5,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a civilization that needs to understand first. So we are mentally based on building blocks. So at the mental level, it's the same thing. So I have to adapt to that. See, it's not about I should be teaching you the way it's been done in the Taoist temples in China 5,000 years ago. No, I have to adapt to what's going on right here, right now, to be able to connect with the facts that in order to share those formulas that makes people grow internally into better humans, first we have to start with understanding of it. And that's what I'm doing with this biology of consciousness. We're peeling off different layers. We're basically getting rid of blind spots in terms of consciousness, and eventually be able to use that consciousness in a way that we're not taught to, in order to grow in a way that's more beneficial at the individual level. And again, when it's beneficial to individual levels, then it spreads to the collective level. It's not coming the reverse. See, the civilization will be trying to impose from the collective level to the individual level.
Yes.
It's not natural.
And I'm acutely aware that the shoulds are are almost part of the hardware of
Oh,
my,
yeah, of course.
and always looking for like the one kingpin where if I pull that one out,
Yeah,
the others will crumble a little bit. But I then at the same time, there needs to be an awareness that's strong enough to grow into the new, to the
yeah.
earth, to the,
See, you don't want to look at it as destroying something.
okay.
You don't want to destroy your education. It's a good education. You have to keep it because it gives you a frame. It gives you a belief system. It gives you something to work with. So it's not about destroying an old system and putting a new one there. You don't need to destroy an application in order to upgrade it.
Aha.
Aha. Yeah. So it's about outgrowing ourselves,
Yeah.
not replacing.
Yeah.
It's a growing process. As we learn better, then we do better and we improve. And then when you put a better application on something, that covers up for the old one. So basically, you're creating clearer water on your back as you float.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
So, yeah, your past always going to be supportive. Don't destroy it.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how bad you feel it is. There's dirty water back there, but it's okay. I'm on the surface. And yeah, the surface improves. And that's what we're going to do next week, working on the spiritual axis. That is so important.
Thank
That
you.
works?
Yes, that works. Thank you.
Cool. That's very, very important question. And because again, you know, the should goes against the should. Yeah. I should not have should. It's so deep in us. I mean, but again, it's just the way it is. And eventually, we're not going to destroy the should. It's going to be replaced. It's going to be upgraded with the same, within the same mental system, within the same belief system. It's not going to be destroyed. It's just going to change. It's just going to improve. It's growing. It's a growing process.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. How are we doing with time? Ooh, only a few minutes left, 4 minutes. So let's get ready for next week. So again, please send questions because I'm going to get deeper and deeper into practice. So internal inner transformation and growing. And for that, of course, we need to cultivate our capacity to integrate it in ourselves. So making sure that we're not in conflict within our belief system. Because that's the base of our education as Westerners. So very important to respect. So we get an authentic practice, not an imitation. Okay. Cool. Well, I think we had a very good session today. And yes, because we've been thinking too much the last sessions and taking tangents about things, which is well good. It was needed. And we might actually go back from time to time to more talking and thinking and brainstorming and all that. But most important for us is that all this conversation, all this brainstorming, all different ideas and conflict can be conflictual also, has to be integrated to make us grow in a way we don't even know yet what is going to come out, and that's okay. It's not that we have to be able to deliver something we learn by heart. No, we just need to grow as a person. We're all different. Okay, so thank you again for participating and taking the time to be here with me. So I just don't talk to an empty box in front of me. And let it grow, practice, sleep over it, and keep respecting your healing process. And any question, either email or get to the blog. I try to get regularly there, but I'm so busy right now, but it's okay. So if I miss answering question to the blog, email, and then email, I have to go every day because I have so much to answer there. That works. And next week, we're going to continue more practice. All right.
Thanks, Gilles. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. See you all next week.
Thanks.
All right.
Buddy.
Hey, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye con Dios.